There was a really interesting discussion the other day on Studio 10 where Kerri and Kennerly asked the question, of the 5,000 people who are out in the streets protesting to change the date of Australia Day, how many of them have been out to regional communities and done something about the sky-high levels of abuse and rape that happen within those communities? To which Yumi Stynes said, I'm sure that's not true and you're sounding really racist. And I thought, what a fascinating discussion to get right in the middle of, because everybody wants to know what a privileged, uninformed white guy thinks about Australia Day. No, this video is not about Australia Day. I don't really know much about it. I don't care much about it. I can see arguments on both sides. On the one hand, we might say it's symbolic of the date of the start of a genocide, and it's just willfully dismissive of the pain that might cause to Aboriginal people. Whereas on the other hand, I'm not sure it really does bother that many Aboriginal people. I mean, it seems like only a slim majority want the date changed. I don't know if it would make any positive, lasting impact to the experience of Aboriginal people in Australia. I think we're focusing much more on the symbolism than anything else. And I don't think anybody really is celebrating a genocide, are they? Like, do you see many people out there at Australia Day going, well, yeah, best genocide ever, Australia won, Rwanda nil? I think it's much more about, like I said, the symbolism. And that's what this video is about. Not about symbolism or about racism, but about why we might focus on that and why Yumi Stynes might have called Kerri Ann Kennerly a racist and why calling people racist might not be the most effective method. This video is about cognitive dissonance. Now, a lot of people online seem to have different ideas about what cognitive dissonance is. People seem to think it's just when you hold two contradictory or apparently hypocritical views. It's not. It's about when two different ideas come into conflict in your head and cause a moment of discomfort. You know how we all like to see ourselves as smart. You know, the whole comments section down below is a whole bunch of people who are subtly trying to imply to one another that they're smarter than one another. We all like to see ourselves as smart. And that's fine until we come into conflict with something that might suggest that we're not that smart, like we got something wrong or somebody seems smarter than us or we failed on a test or something like that. And we don't like that, that feeling of that conflict of I like this thought and feeling means a lot to me, and here's something that's putting that under threat. And so what we typically do is work really hard in some subtle and not very noticeable, very interesting ways to get rid of that dissonance. For example, when Kerri Ann Kennerly says that there are high levels of rape and abuse within Aboriginal communities, Yumi Stynes quite quickly says, I'm sure that's not true, and you're sounding quite racist. Now, why would she say, I'm sure that's not true? It's because if somebody says something like that and you care about the plight of Aboriginal people, you might, when you hear that thought, go, oh, I don't like how that makes me feel, so I'm sure that's not true. I've decided the fact based on that feeling. Now, we can all point this out in other people, and a bunch of you are sitting there right now going, yeah, other people do that, don't they? No, you're doing it right now. And this is the thing. We all do it all the time. What's the problem with it, though? The problem is what it can mean is when we focus on social change issues, and social change is really hard, we might need to focus on tough stuff, really difficult stuff to admit, like about high levels of rape and abuse within certain communities. And we might therefore want to back away from those discussions, also because we might be scared of being called racist. And that can be really problematic. There is an example in Rotherham in the UK where there were gangs of Pakistani men were grooming and taking advantage of young, vulnerable women. And a lot of evidence seemed to suggest that the police and the politicians at the time didn't want to say this is Pakistani men. And as a result, it seemed like more young women were getting predated upon because we all went, oh, Jesus, I don't like that idea. Don't say that about the migrants. And that can be problematic because it means we don't deal with the issue, first of all. And secondly, we kind of hand that discussion off to exactly the people we don't want to do it. The kind of people who say Aboriginals rape and abuse their women or Pakistani men rape young women and feel no dissonance about saying that. We kind of give that argument to them where they go, look, those people won't even talk about it. They won't even talk about it. They want to focus on the symbolism. And we do. Could you argue with them? I mean, what was the last symbolic thing we did for the Aboriginal people? To me, it seems to me it was about saying sorry about the stolen generation. Great, huge symbolism. I was absolutely on board with it at the time. But now in hindsight, I've got to ask, did it make any difference? Because this is the thing. If you focus on stuff that it's like, oh, of course we should do it. Why shouldn't we do it? If it's that easy a thing, it's typically because we go, well, what's the harm? What's the harm? And it's like, yeah, if there's no side effects, there's probably no primary effects either, are they? What positive impacts has there been for Aboriginal people in the recent past as a result of saying sorry about the stolen generation? But we'd prefer to focus on that, wouldn't we? Because if we chose to focus on tough social issues, they're difficult to fix. It's really difficult to know if your intervention is going to have a positive impact in the long run. After all, what were we saying sorry about with the stolen generation? Stealing people's kids. Nowadays, we like to say, oh, the stolen generation happened because we were trying to breed Aboriginals out of existence. We wanted to, it was a genocide, and we were snatching kids away from their families to turn them into indentured servitude. Now, some of that latter thing did happen. It does seem like there were some families who were going, oh, great, I'm going to snatch for myself a young mixed-race Aboriginal girl. But if you look at the legislation at the time, which I was reading through a bit of, it seems like a vast amount of the reasoning for taking kids away from families was for exactly the stuff we're talking about now. It was opium-dependent parents. There was some legislation in Western Australia. It seemed like any of the stuff about Aboriginal people being bred out of existence was more concern for what's going to happen to these other people, and aren't we, by leaving these mixed race children in there, actually speeding that along? So maybe we need to do things to sort this out. It seemed like it was well-intentioned at the time, attempt at social change for the betterment of Aboriginal people. But notice how that again causes dissonance. No, because it was a bad thing. We've decided in hindsight it's bad, therefore it must happen for bad reasons, because otherwise it's complex and we don't like the complexity of that. So what can we do about this dissonance? What can we do to experience less of it? Well, nothing really. I've spent the whole video talking about this, and you've spent the whole time with the things you disagree with me on going, well, he's just wrong on that. And the things you agree with me on going, well, he's right about that. You're doing it right now, right? Think about this. You want some dissonance fuel? Think about this. I want you to think about the last disagreement that you had with somebody, or issues upon which you disagree with people about which date we should have Australia Day, whether the stolen generation was a terrible thing at the time, right now, anything, about whether you should put warm food in the microwave or wait till put warm food in the fridge and wait till it cools down, right? We all have these different views. Just think about this. Statistically speaking, you've got to be wrong on 50% of those. You've got to be, like, on average, in terms of, you're probably of average intelligence, and you're probably an average in terms of perceptiveness, and there's stuff that you don't know, that you don't even know that you don't know. So you're 50-50, because it's not possible you're both right. In fact, it's worse than 50-50, because you could both be wrong. So you're wrong about more than half of the things you disagree with people on. But you don't believe that, do you? Because I say that to you, and it causes a moment of dissonance where, but then immediately you go, oh no, he's wrong. I get what you're saying mathematically when you're talking about all of the other people who might have been watching this video. Definitely true of them, but it's not true of me. And you're doing it right now, right? This is the thing. There's no way to get rid of the dissonance. There's no way to get around the biases that the dissonance seems to cause. You're stuffed. We're all stuffed. We're just going to be like this forever. I don't know why I made a video about it. We're stuffed. Oh no, yes I do. I know why I made a video about this. And that is because we need to be mindful of the dissonance we cause others. Because sometimes it might be quite good. Dissonance is great if you can really get a handle on it and look at those things that cause dissonance. You might actually become less wrong over time. It's not likely. But think about when you're trying to enact social change or bring somebody around to your point of view. If you call them a racist, what happens? Same thing that happened with Kerri and Kennerly. They say, I'm quite offended by that. And they get upset and they find reasons to get rid of your argument. You're the asshole. You're the racist. You don't actually care about Aboriginal people. Oh, you're just naive. They're naive. They're just delicate little snowflakes, right? We find reasons to get rid of those arguments if they cause dissonance. So what you need to be able to do is pick tougher issues and then have arguments that don't make people feel inadequate, stupid, racist, whatever else. That, and I would really like to know, based on this video, what are the interventions that you know of that could make some sort of positive impact on Aboriginal people? Because I'm curious to know about them, and I'd like to put my shoulder to the wheel in some sense, but I would like to do something that has some proven positive impact for Aboriginal people. Because if you're involved in programs like that, or know of programs like that, please do share them, comment them under this video, make videos of yourself, because I would really like to get involved in doing some of that stuff. And enjoy, I think. Or don't enjoy. Enjoy not enjoying things.